Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Ali and this here is Fidget, and down there we have Galaxy. And in today's video I'm going to be going through some signs to see whether chinchillas actually like each other or not, and this is during the initial bonding process. Now the reason why I'm doing this video is because one of my viewers put a comment up saying I'd like to see a video showing what the signs are that chinchillas get along or not. So yeah, I thought I'd do that. And the easiest way for me to do that, to show you, is to actually have two chinchillas that have never ever met each other out for playtime and see what happens. Now, I wouldn't normally recommend putting two chinchillas out together that have never ever met each other or have never been side by each other, because that can be quite dangerous, but I do know Fidget's personality very, very well, and I know that she is a particularly placid chinchilla. So I've got a feeling that they will get along, so fingers crossed. But if they don't get along, I can also point out the signs of how I know that it's not working. So I'll just get out Galaxy to show you Galaxy and then we'll get on with the video. So this is Galaxy. She is actually quite a bit younger than Fidget. She's only 5 or 6 months old, and the reason why I'm using her in this video is because it might be easier with a younger chinchilla. So yeah. Hi, so this is Editing Ali here, and I just wanted to say that when I first got the chinchillas out of their carriers, I thought I was filming, and I actually wasn't, so that's my bad. So the first footage that I wanted to show you isn't there. One of the first signs to look for is actually communication, and that is soft chirping sounds towards each other. That's a really good sign that they're going to get along, because they're actually physically talking to each other and communicating with each other, and that means they're interested in each other, and that's just generally a good sign. Communication is a good sign. So they don't seem to be too bothered by each other, and I can hear some very, very low chirping sounds from them. Yeah, so if they meet head on and they don't show any signs of aggression, or they just completely ignore each other, that's quite a good sign. So signs they're not getting along are if they start chasing each other a lot, if they start mounting each other, because that's a sign of dominance, so one of them wants to be dominant over the other, and that can lead to aggression, especially if both of them want to be dominant. That can be a bit tricky. If they're running around chasing each other and making kind of like a snorting sound, that is a very strong indication they not liking the situation they're in and not actually liking each other in their space. See, this is perfect. Perfect interaction there between them. Another sign that they're not getting along is obviously physical fighting. So if they actually start pulling at each other's fur, then sometimes if they're chasing each other around and snorting at each other, it doesn't necessarily mean there's no chance of them being bonded. It just means that you might need a little bit more time or try a different method of bonding them, because some chinchillas are highly territorial, and if you get two that are highly territorial, that's when the mix can be slightly difficult. So yeah, here, perfect interaction there. I kind of knew that these two would get along. I didn't really want to put together two chinchillas that potentially could rip each other apart, because that's a dangerous thing to do, so I was hoping they'd get along okay. And Fidget, as I say, she's a dream chinchilla. She really is. She gets along with absolutely every single chinchilla I've ever put with her. So they're really more interested in exploring, because Fidget does come in this room, but not that often. This is kind of a little bit of a neutral space for them. Although Fidget's been in this room obviously before, it's not her normal play area. So yeah, this is going very, very well. So I don't know if you can hear, but they are chirping away at each other. Another sign that there might be an issue is if one of them starts chirping continuously and then starts wagging their tail, because that means that they're marking their territory, which means they might be a little bit territorial and you might have a few issues. Yes, watch out for that one. If they start really continuously chirping and then swish their tail from side to side, it's them releasing scent, and they release scent to mark their territory, to say, "Oi, this is mine." So yeah, then you might be a little bit more cautious, but it's still not impossible to bond them when they're like that. But these two are getting on fabulously. That was an interesting noise. It wasn't aggression, it was just her making a very funny squeaking noise. I'm hoping you can hear that. So I had to cut that bonding session a little bit short because my daughter had a little bit of a meltdown and I had to sort her out. But I just wanted to say, if you want to know if a chinchilla is going to get on with another chinchilla before you've even done that process of putting them together and having them side by side and having them out for playtime, it's really, really difficult to say. Unless you know the chinchilla's personalities extremely well. And the personality they have with you may not be the same personality that they have with another chinchilla. They may be fine with you, but may be quite territorial around another chinchilla. So yeah, it can be quite hard to tell. But one of the signs, good signs, is if when you have them side by side, they're communicating, that's always a good sign. But having said that, you may not know whether they're going to get on until you've done that initial first process of actually putting them in a room together. So I thought I'd do a little recap of all the good signs that they may get along and all the bad signs that you can look out for to show they may have a few issues. So the first good sign is communication. Now this is in the form of short, gentle little chirps. Now if you've got a chinchilla that's making lots of continuous chirping and swishing their tail from side to side, that is not such a good sign, because that generally means that they're marking their territory, and it could mean they're threatened by the other chinchilla slightly. So that's not a good sign, unless you've got a male and female together, and then it is a good sign because that means the male is actually interested in the female. But if you get that where they're constantly chirping and then wagging their tail from side to side, that means they may feel a little bit threatened and may want to show that it's their territory. This is my area. With this sound and the tail wagging, it's not a deal breaker at all. You can still get chinchillas that are quite happily bonded together that had this initial reaction. It's just something you've just got to be a bit cautious of when you see it, just to make sure that you're ready to intervene should a fight break out. Second thing that's a really, really good sign is if they meet head on and there's hardly any reaction at all. So for example, they ignore each other completely, or they just sniff each other and then move on with their lives, then that's a good sign, because that means they're not entirely bothered with each other at all, which means that, yeah, they're probably going to get on okay if they're not actually bothered by each other's presence. The next thing is grooming each other. If they start grooming each other, this is a really, really, really positive sign. And this generally means that, yes, they're kind of accepting of each other, they're happy to groom each other, is a really, really good sign. Now, on the bad signs, you've got the tail wagging, which isn't a deal breaker at all, but it's just something you need to be cautious of if they're doing that, because it means they are marking their territory and they're feeling quite threatened by the other chinchilla.
If they chase each other a lot, then that's a sign that they may need a little bit more time. It might mean they just need a little bit more time side by side. Chasing each other isn't really a deal breaker either, as long as it's not getting too aggressive. If they start chasing each other and snorting at each other, that's a really strong indication that they're really not happy with each other's company at this time. Again, not a deal breaker, because the more you get them to interact with each other, the more they might get used to each other. It's just that initial reaction. It's not a deal breaker, it just means they need a little bit more time, and potentially there might be an issue of dominance there. If they're mounting each other, now this happens anyway with males and females, and it's a sign of dominance. Now this is all fine if one male is doing it to another male or one female is doing it to another female. That's all fine, because one of them may well want to be dominant. The issue comes when both chinchillas want to be dominant, and then fights can break out. If both of them are mounting each other a lot, it might be something to watch out for, because it means they both want to be dominant, and that can lead to issues further on down the line. Another sign that there might be a few issues is if they start pulling at each other's fur when they're actually chasing each other. Now again, this is not a deal breaker, believe it or not. You can still get chinchillas that are happily bonded that do this initial reaction, because it's the initial shock of having another chinchilla in their space. Anytime it really is, an end of this is not going to work, is if they actually fight to the point where they actually physically injure each other, so causing each other to draw blood, that kind of thing. Then it's a case of no, don't even try to bond them again. It's really not worth it, because they're obviously not happy with each other. It's very rare for them to do that, but it does happen. So yeah, those are the signs really. So okay, I hope this video has helped a little bit. If you like the video, please like. If you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. I post a lot of videos about chinchillas and other animals as well, but a lot of videos about chinchillas. So goodbye from me, and goodbye from Fidget. Hey, you gonna say goodbye?